Well, hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Wheel Tapping. This week, I am joined by the venerable Mr. Tony Fryer, and my name is Chris Whipan. How you doing, Tony?
I can use a haircut after all this lockdown, but other than that, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if for some reason this actually comes out after said lockdown, then you know, more power to them. But right now, yeah, we're looking a little shaggy, a little shaggy.
Oh yeah.
So today, Tony and I are discussing 1882, and as seems to be our fun lately, we decided to get a third chair. So sitting in that seat is none other than Marc Voyer. Did I pronounce that right, Mark?
Yeah, sounds good.
So if you're paying attention at home, guess what? He designed it. So hello, it's like the perfect person to have on to talk about this. Now, Tony, this is kind of a switch for us because we're kind of talking about something really new again. You know, we talked about Chesapeake, but that was already a year and a half old when we talked about it. But this guy is brand spanking new. What made you want to do this one?
Well, it's not completely brand spanking new, but its public offering would be completely brand spanking new. But it's a very neat game, and and we've been enjoying it quite a bit, playing it a lot online lately, and thought it would be a good one to talk to and drag Mark into it, as you said, because he's a very cool guy to talk to.
Absolutely. So Tony, how much have you gotten played of this guy?
Well, I've only played 8 times, and two of those plays were last summer, shortly after Mark had visited Denver, and I acquired a copy of them then. So it was in that time frame. But then the other 6 plays have been really just in the last couple of weeks in very quick succession playing online.
Right. And I've gotten online plays only. This is the first time I actually talking about a game that I've never played the physical copy of. So this is a first. But you know what? For those of you who follow along on the YouTube stream, we did play this live using Board 18, spreadsheet, and Zoom, and we had a fabulous time. And we that was one of what 3 plays that we played. It's a lot of play that week.
Yeah.
So this, like you said, this was designed just last year. So 2019 is its release date. I'm sure it took longer to design. It's not like you thought about it in January, Mark. Um, it plays 2 to 6 people, and it runs around. Well, I mean, the length time it says around 4 hours, but we seem to truck through this in around 3 with 4 players. So it seems to be a good. It's finding that school night vibe for us, which is helpful.
Yeah. Particularly if there's a bankruptcy.
Especially if
Yeah.
there's a bankruptcy, which we got to witness once, and then no, we kind of I guess we learned our lessons after that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the initial auction instead of our phases here, and we're just going to take a brief moment and just kind of chat with Mark because Tony has rapid fire questions for him. No, not really, not rapid. Remember, Tony's a Civil War buff, so rapid fire is
That's right.
relative. How
Well,
fast can
what
you
I did
reload?
was I sent Mark one list of questions, but now I'm going to come with a different.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
no,
Hit me
What's your
from
favorite aquatic animal? Is the first one.
that's right. If you were a vegetable, um, well, I think the first thing to do is just let Mark introduce himself to people and say a little bit about where you live, what you do for a living, etc.
sounds good. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. And just wanted to comment about the haircuts. Ended up giving myself a haircut because everything's closed and took the shaver and they were getting too long, so had to do it myself.
Looks good.
Braver than me
Yep,
at
my
the
name's
moment.
Mark. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Um, it's finally nice weather out today. It's almost 18 degrees Celsius. Beautiful. So I do IT for a living. Um, so a lot behind the computer, working from home lately. So, and a lot of work too. It's been very busy. So
Good.
everyone's online, right? So
Absolutely.
Sure.
Have you been trying to find time to get some train games in, or how are you trying to fill that void?
yeah, I lately the last month or two, not so much. It was a little bit of a disappointment. I had, 4 conventions lined up to go to, and I was pumped, and then it all just went away, and so it's like a mini depression there for a while. So I ended up doing a little bit of computer games, and honestly, I've been pretty busy with work, so I haven't had a whole lot of time there. But so yeah, some Steam games with friends and that, but definitely getting back into designing and trying to finish one of my other designs, 1872. So yeah,
Yeah, if things were different, you would be headed to Denver right about now
yeah,
for
no doubt.
tracks. Yeah.
That's where I
This is
should have been.
this would be the weekend of it.
Yeah.
So, do you find it difficult to work on a screen all the time and then turn around and say, "Okay, now I'm going to game on this screen again"? Is that a difficult? Is that I guess it's got to be a roadblock, right?
It is. It is difficult, especially yeah, sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours. Board gaming in front of people was kind of my release
Hmm.
of getting away from the computer, and so I
Mhm.
yeah I mean I do. We played 1817 a lot online about a year and a half ago. Um, a friend of mine created a spreadsheet that was all automated, so we could get a game of 1817 done in like 4 hours. So it was pretty amazing.
That's
Um,
crazy
Wow.
talk.
but
It
yeah,
would take
That's
you that
nice.
long to explain short shares to me again. Let's be honest.
yeah, we had a lot of experience playing it in front of each other. You know, 20 or 30 times. So
Nice.
yeah,
Absolutely.
but I definitely want to get
What?
into it more again.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
should. We'll hook you up and we'll get a game in online. Just not 1882.
sounds good. Yeah, I'd love to join. It doesn't have to be 82.
Don't want to get
Any
crushed.
game, really. You guys will probably
What's
crush me now. I haven't played in a while.
Well, Mark, what was your entry into 18xx playing?
So it was about 1997, 1998 ish, and I was at Walmart one day, and I saw 1830, the DOS version, sitting on the shelf.
Oh,
It was like $5 or something. So I knew nothing about. I wasn't a board gamer. I knew nothing about 18xx at all, and I picked it up, and so I played the heck out of that for probably 5 or 6, 7 years, and then I got into wargaming, Axis and Allies, and a couple of two-player war games and that, like Devil's Den and stuff like that. And then it was around 2013, I think, that I saw the whole board gaming explosion was happening, and so a friend of mine pointed out 1830, and I went, "Hey, I know that game." So I bought it and showed it to about 8 of my friends, and so yeah, that's kind of where it
awesome,
all started. The actual
awesome.
physical play. Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, something tripped in your mind, and you said, "I would like to create my own games." What caused that? How did that come about?
Well, I'm naturally a creative person, I think, and so I just started doodling in Paint or Photoshop or something one day, and said, "Hey, I might be able to make a game." And so it's probably around 2015 I started. I call it doodling, and then it came into something, and I said, "Oh, I have this game, and I think it's really good." And I play tested it, and it was completely broken. People were really nice about it and said, there's some good things there. And I think even Tyler McLaughlin was there, and but it was a lot of things broken, and learned a lot of lessons that it's a lot of work designing.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. Right on. Yeah, creativity. I love it.
Yeah.
Do Mark, 18xx games, a lot of people get into it almost as a lifestyle, as your preferred game of choice, and they're longish games, takes a lot of time, tends to be someone's main hobby. Do you have any other hobbies that you are active in besides, designing, authoring, playing board games?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely an avid bowler. So I
Oh,
do both 5 and 10 pin bowling. Uh,
five.
Lately, it was mostly 5 pin bowling. So, which is only in Canada. I don't think you guys have it in the States.
Never heard of it.
So
Yeah.
it's
I've
five
never heard of it.
pins. So in the Northeast, they have something called duck pin, and it's used. They use a 3.5 pound ball. It's a smaller size ball,
Huh.
um, and so you can easily bowl with one hand. And with duck pin, I think it's like 10 pins, and they're smaller pins, and they're all free fall, and they just fly around when you hit them. With ours, it's 5 pin. It has the strings on them, and we use that 3.5 pound ball. And so you
The
chuck it really
pins
hard
are
down the lane with one hand, and yeah, it's fun.
the the pins are on strings.
Yeah, the pins are on strings, which is kind of annoying sometimes because if they're arranged in a triangle, and if you hit the head pin, so you get 3 balls in 5 pin, and if you hit a head pin, it's almost impossible to spare because the other 2 pins on each side are. It's hard to get the pins to fly off to the other side. Yeah.
Huh.
Weird.
Now, when you said the one hand, I'm just envisioning. Well, that's so I don't have to put down my beer. That's
Oh,
that's
you definitely have to put down your beer.
because you're hurling that thing. Okay.
There's definitely beer
That's
drinking
funny.
with bowling. Yep.
Well, I don't
There would have
judge.
to be.
Just makes me interested. That's all.
And we have 10 pin too. So I was in some 10 pin leagues for a while, and that was fun.
That's
Um,
cool.
so I actually built
Oh,
a bowling alley in my garage for my kid because of the whole quarantine thing. So I got the whole plywood out and two by
Nice.
fours and this frame around it. And so now he wants a pin setter. So I got to figure out, okay, drilling holes into the ceiling and with strings and stuff. So it's becoming that's one of the new projects I have. So
right
there's
on.
that. Yeah,
Well, I thought you were the pin
trying to
setter.
keep
You have to go set them
busy.
up.
That's the problem. It's me and the wife setting up the pins for him. So we
Awesome.
gotta try and fix that.
Right on, right
Definitely
on.
interesting. I'd never heard of 5 pin, so that's
Oh,
something new. I almost kind of picture it a little bit like pickleball is to tennis, right? Like it's this lighter, easier, slightly more accessible version that you can have a little more fun with. Kind of has that same kind of vibe to it, but I
It
don't know
might look
pickleball
easier
either.
at first, but then you start playing it and you go, yeah, this isn't easy.
Sounds like it's half the work. That's all.
Half the weight, but
um, have to
yeah.
wait. There's not even holes in the ball, right? You just palm it
No, there's no holes, so you can hold it in one hand, right? So
underhand, throw it underhand, of course. I'm assuming.
yeah, throw it underhand, and you can. Most guys that throw it hard, their backswing's like way up here, and they whip it, and it's. I don't know how
It's
fast it's
like
going, but
I know what
it's like
YouTube
watching a
rabbit
over an
hole
novel.
hour.
I'll be going down later tonight. Just saying.
Yeah,
Sorry. I need to
YouTube.
check this out.
yeah.
YouTube rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Right on, right on. Mark,
Cool.
do you have besides 1882? You have any other games formulating in your mind or anything that you want to talk about at all?
Yeah, 1872 I've been working on for quite a while. It's based in Western Canada, so it's BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba.
Cool.
Um, it's definitely
Western
a
half.
bigger game. Yeah, western half of Canada. So I've been working on that one for a very long time. Um, Hoping to have something ready for people to play online in the next couple of months. So
Oh, very cool.
yeah,
It's exciting.
yeah.
Right on, right
Absolutely.
on. What should we have asked you that we didn't ask you, Mark? Any any weird things you want to divulge? No, I'm kidding about that.
Uh,
Maybe nothing.
I can't think of anything.
All right, all right. Well, as we get into 1882, we're gonna discover that it's in the 1830 family. Um, so my last question in this part would be what attracts you about 1830 that you authored a game that is in that family?
It's definitely the sharp edges, the yellow and the brown zones, and just the just that bankruptcy being right next door, and you don't know if it's going to hit you or if it's going to hit the next guy. And
Right.
so I wanted to take 1830, make it a little bit shorter, um, and even open it up a little with neutral tokens, and still make it interesting and highly replayable too. And,
Yeah,
Sure.
you definitely put some elbows in this one. there
yeah,
there the amount of times and we'll get more into it later, but the amount of times somebody's gone to open that third or fourth company and had no tile to place their home.
yeah.
You get a little quick elbow right to the gut on
Sure.
that one. You're like,
I get so much hate mail about the lack of 57s in there. It's
Right.
you need to add more 57s. I went, no, I don't.
No,
if you want it,
it's
you
your
go dig
game. You
out your
bought it.
copy
Go
of
ahead and
30.
buy. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Go ahead and get your own if you want. That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you chose the 1830 family. I think 1830 is fantastic, and it to me like it has such simple rules, but such depth from those simple rules. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
nice. Cool.
Absolutely. Cool. So Tony, you alluded to it. 1882 is definitely, its birthplace lies in 1830, and it comes up. So there's not a huge amount of differences as far as like the MacGuffins and the rule sets go here. But you kind of brought up the money. The money's a little tighter in this bad boy, to the point of, let's see, we have here it's 9,000 versus 12, and then it's also 9,000 versus 6,300. So what'd you mean by
Yeah.
that?
Well, the first time I played, I figured it was Canadian dollars, so I just made a $6,300 bank. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But that would be an extra tight game.
I set up the pins, you knock them down. Just
But bum. Right on. Yeah, yeah. That's one of the differences. Is a shorter bank, and that definitely leads to a shorter playtime as well. Um, the stock market is almost the same, but it's a little narrower, so that's cool. There's some extra rules in the track building because in 1830 you can only do one thing, right? But in this game you can lay a second yellow for $20, so that's cool. It's a smaller map as we'll talk about, and then you can really develop it pretty quickly if
hmm
you got the cash and willing to spend it. Um, so I think it's got some neat differences.
definitely. And the auction's pretty much a straightforward 30 auction, but I love the private with the rotating share that kind of goes with it. I think that's
The
fun.
trestle bridge.
Yeah, yeah, and then
Nice.
you got the bridge is also interesting because it pays nothing, like
Right.
revenue wise. You only get paid if people build bridges, which I've seen games where people go crazy, and then you buy the bridge the next time because you're like, that was money, and then no one
Yeah.
does. And the only money you
Yeah.
make is for yourself, which equates to a discount. But it's definitely, there's some fun privates in there to play with. I like that, a lot. I think it's a solid one.
Right on.
Cool. Has a yellow, orange, and brown zone in the stock market. We'll talk about that more later. So you get the
Yeah.
you get to play the full effect of stocks. You don't just have to deal with one zone or the other. This one goes all the way down, and you can. I like the track building, so
Yeah.
pretty cool, pretty cool. So gentlemen, I think that kind of covers it. Let's get on to talking about the map. So in the yellow phase, we like to talk about the map and all of its goodness. So what I have on the board right now is the new artwork from All Aboard, who's publishing it. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I just saw Scott posted today that the start player token for this guy is going to be the wooden beaver that's from the it's from what? Which one's the can pack, right?
The CP.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty
can
awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Absolutely good choice. So we're looking at the map. What do you think, Tony? What's instantly jumping out at you?
Well, I mean, the first thing you can see is it's a little smaller than, say, 1830, since we like to do some base comparisons against 1830. So it generally, quick math, maybe it's like 20% smaller or something like that, I don't know, it feels tighter than that to me, which I like. So,
and I think some of that tightness comes, and it's also a horizontal map as opposed to the vertical of 30. So
or square.
Yeah. I tend to think linearly anyway. I just seem to do better.
Left to right, or
yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I can read either way. That's fine. But it also, you were talking about the $20 build, the extra build. I think that really fills this map in quickly, and then it almost creates a tile rush to try and make sure you get what you need.
Yeah, it's delicious. Obviously, there's a crap ton of rivers there you can see on the map.
All the way from the northeast corner all the way down to the southwest.
It costs either $20 or $60 to complete a bridge across those rivers. So, it can be costly. And when you build them, it can put money into the player's hands that owns that trestle bridge private. So, which is great if it's you.
Sure.
Yep.
It's nice to get a rebate. There's two core revenue centers. 2.5. We got two OOs. And in our games, they see some build up, but they tend to be an afterthought. Everybody's kind of running for Pile of Bones or Regina in the center of the map. That seems to be the big money center that upgrades pretty quickly, and everybody wants to get in.
Mark, you gonna correct that Yankee on his pronunciation of that city?
Regina.
There you go.
Well, yeah. I didn't want to be that guy, so I'm glad you were. I heard it. Let's put it this way: I heard it so much I wasn't sure if it was right or not, so I erred on the side of caution.
Yeah.
No problem.
Those crazy Canadians.
They are. They're absolutely crazy. Now, of course, you have your basic barbell blocking privates, so there's nothing too crazy with those guys. But then, if we're looking at the map up in the northwest corner, there's a bunch of tiles and hexes that are denoted with this, what is it, the NWR tokens on it up there. And they do something pretty cool. So they actually, I think it's probably best if I ask Mark to explain it, because I will probably screw it up, because I've tried running that company twice and it's not worked out so well.
So for the NWR zone, if you're laying a track in there, you earn $20 just for building that yellow track in there. For the NWR private, it can teleport one of its tokens over to one of the cities that are over in that zone, and then it can do additional track lays after that as well, in addition to its regular track lays. So in theory, you could get up to 3 track lays after teleporting over there, right?
Yeah. So, and of course,
nice.
it's got the northern Alberta up there in the corner, which is pretty good money early on. You get $60 in brown, which is, it's nothing to sneeze at.
I really dig that the Northwest Rebellion, the railroads you mentioned in the design notes, played a historical role in the suppression, perhaps, of the NWR.
Yeah, the Canadian Pacific, they transported troops across, and that was there would have been no way that they would have got there in time to quash the rebellion if the railroad wasn't there, and I believe it had just been built about a year beforehand. So,
Yeah.
The rebellion was definitely surprised that there was, government troops ready to fight them. So I wanted to represent that somehow in that zone and make it interesting. So it went through definitely a few flavors of changes over the time of developing, and this one worked pretty good.
Because that when the rebellion happens, you blow up all those yellow tiles on those purple hexes, right?
That too.
Yeah.
An explosion there.
So I mean,
What
right,
happened?
and that happens when the first fortrain is bought, correct?
It's
No,
actually
it's variable.
random.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I apologize for saying random. It is variable. At the beginning of the game, it's either going to happen on a 3, 4, 5, or 6 train. You determine.
Okay.
That way.
Yeah.
So
So
in
you're plugging
advance.
that NWR card into there, and as soon as that comes up, then that's when it happens into the
Gotcha.
train stack. Yeah.
So you have a rough idea when it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Everyone knows when it's going to happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And then you.
But it could happen at different times from session to session to session.
For
so
each
that's
game.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
which is
variability.
which is pretty cool because if it happens later, well, you just rush in there, try and get all your track and get it developed into green, and then it doesn't even affect you.
That's right.
Yeah.
You
I
blow right
think,
through.
Chris, in our plays, we haven't seen a lot of yellow get up there, and I don't know if we've all been afraid of it or whatever. It doesn't seem like it's something to be afraid of, particularly if the rebellion's not going to happen to a 5 or 6 train. But Mark,
and it's really, I think it's to our detriment because I think that the one thing that we didn't mention yet is there is an east-west bonus of $100, and
Yes.
it's probably one of the easiest routes to complete that east-west run is for that NWR from the northeast to the northwest. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's and with the extra lays, we're probably missing a boat on the fact.
I think that's a big part of it is that east-west, and it really depends on what the CP is doing and what's happening in the game, because if there's no development in that south side, there might be more encouragement to get that development in the north side. And it all depends on the number of players and what else is happening. But we've seen where almost instantly everyone's gathered up in the northwest and tons of track building. So it really depends on how the rest of the map develops.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like the ick in the 46 that we just played, right? It's incentivized for you to go do it, but not everybody wants to because well, if they're incentivizing it, there's a reason why I shouldn't do that. And then they get worried because I'm going to lose all this yellow track, and then you forget, well, really, you can probably recover in one turn, right? You're just, and you got that track for free in the first place when you think about it.
Exactly. Then you just lay it again and make some more money. So
exactly, because just because the rebellion's over, you still get the bonus when you relay the track. So
get it a second time. Why not?
Exactly.
There's been a time or two I've just laid a single yellow tile up there just to get the $20 because that was the difference in making a token or something,
Right.
So
you can suitcase up there, right, and just have a company that's not connected to anything.
That's been attempted.
Make money.
Lloyd Meister has been the recipient of 2 briefcases in the games that we've played.
we'll talk
I've
about
seen
some
briefcases in Regina.
Really?
It's crazy that. Oh yeah, the one time that happened,
crazy.
It was completely blocked off, and there was a suitcase company there for a while, which is bonkers.
Interesting.
So, I think we kind of covered the map. Anything else we want to touch on with the map? I mean, we talked a lot about the rivers. Maybe a little bit more on tile restrictions, like the O's are a little tough. There's very, very tight restrictions. There's only 4 cities in the game, and they're all straights. So you're not, you are limited by that. But I also think 4 straight cities, I think there's a fun balance with that because because they're straight means that people generally are more inclined to upgrade them as fast as possible, because half the time you need a curve, you need a tight curve, you need to get out of wherever that city is in a lot of places. So I think that it helps kind of move the game along. So just make sure you're paying attention to tiles when you go to open that company, and make sure that you have a home tile that you can actually lay, unless you're specifically trying not to, which we can cover.
When we get to the brown phase, I'll have a few things to say about the tiles, because I really feel like the tile set is a shenanigan in itself. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. So that brings us up to the green phase. Now the green phase is pretty much all about the trains. So what do you think about this one, Tony? I know you kind of we like to talk about this one a little bit when we're playing, because there's that interesting moment.
So it's the game's in the 1830 family. Chris, we like to make some comparisons to 1830 to the games we talk about, just because of the ubiquitous nature of 1830, not because a game should or shouldn't be compared to 1830. But
Correct.
Since this one's in the 1830 family, first thing you look at is like, what's the difference in the train roster between 30 and 82? And in 82, there's one less 3, 4, and 5 train than 1830, but one of those trains is going to come back into the game when the Saskatchewan, I just call it the Scatch, when the Scatch starts up. It's much easier than saying Saskatchewan. Because there's a feature of the game is when the Saskatchewan starts, the Saskatchewan Central, you're either going to get an extra 3, 4, 5, or 6 train in the game. Correct, Mark?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And so basically you're going to have fewer trains than are in 1830, which is pretty cool. You don't know if you're going to get an extra 3, a 4, a 5, or 6 in the game. And the game comes
and you might not get any.
Fewer. You might not get any.
If the
right?
doesn't start, there's no extra train at all.
Exactly.
So where did that
So I
come
like
from?
that very much. I particularly like that there's one less 3. In my plays, I can't recall ever seeing the SC start in phase 3 and we get another 3 train in there. But I like having the extra 3. I think the game feels a little more brittle to me without that extra 3 train in there, which I totally dig, of course. One time, Chris, I think it was in a game that you and I were in together, where there ended up being an extra 4 train in the game that another player didn't anticipate having to face that extra 4 train, and ended up buying the last 2 4 trains, one of which was the extra.
And I was
then
starting a company right
totally
behind him, so I was very happy with that fact.
he got totally boned when it came to the diesel phase, because that train tighted him at 2 4 trains.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, yeah.
Just like 30, that's usually a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. It was. So the difference in the train roster, I think, is really neat, and additionally to that, the variance of you don't know what train you're going to get. Like Mark said, if you will get another train, in fact. Very neat.
And one thing I tend to find in this family of games is there are a lot of games I'll play where I don't see the need to buy multiple 2 trains right away, unless you're trying to force the rush. But you may not have those runs. But in this one, because the map tends to be pretty tight, like you can get double 2 runs and even some triple 2 runs pretty quickly, I think. So, it definitely, that just propels the train rush even faster, I think.
I think in one game I bought 4 2 trains with the CP because someone else had floated it, right? And so, okay, you floated the CP. I'm going to buy 4 trains. I had priority in the next stock round, and so I built the track straight to where the hex is blocked by the private. Dumped it on him, and he couldn't build track out of there. So you're stuck with 4 2 trains. Crazy things can happen, right?
So what was the
4
impetus?
2 trains and no runs.
Yeah,
and no runs. Well, he had 2 runs. He just couldn't go anywhere because I had bought the New York or not the New Yorks, the Grand Trunk, and connected
Oh,
into him, and so he couldn't go anywhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where did the
I think
this movable train, like where did that come from? Because I don't necessarily recall this variable kind of train addition or subtraction in any other
So
game
that
before.
was just one of my ideas. Most of my ideas end up in the trash, but this one actually worked out.
I like it. Is it based
that's
on
fun.
any was it any play history, or is it any like history behind it? Just like the mechanism.
Yeah, no, there's no history at all. I just wanted some way to adjust the timing in a game and
Okay.
apply it to one of the privates to make that private interesting, and that's what happened. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Nice.
worked out
Objective achieved.
for
Tell
sure.
me, Mark, what you think about this. I think that when the SE starts and puts a 5 or a 6 train in there, that you're less likely to see a bankruptcy because there's another
That's
cheaper private out there. So, what you're talking
it
about, your idea
depends
of
on
controlling the pacing, you're
yeah, it
putting it in
depends
the
on a few
hands of the
things.
players,
Yeah, yeah,
which
for
is good.
sure. If the game has been going really fast, someone has a lot of companies and they need to get permanence on all those companies, I typically see, it breaks down for them. So it's not always good to just take all the companies and all that money, and sometimes it doesn't work out.
Sometimes, and
Awesome, awesome.
sometimes you buy two four trades.
Yeah,
or 4 2 trains. Yeah,
Exactly.
without the extra 3, the 2 trains don't live as long as they would in some other games. So it's really cool.
yeah, depending on things that happen.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure, but
but generally, you're
if
right.
if someone's going to push the game, and they should, yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we're already flirting with it. So let's just move straight on into the brown phase, which is what we like to call the shenanigans of the game. So Tony produces our notes and he does a great job and thank you. And I make my notes and my goodness, boys and girls, you're gonna be here a little while because Tony likes the shenanigans in this one. So
well, I
go
like
ahead, Tony.
shenanigans in general.
Yeah, lead us off. Like,
Um,
what are some of the things? What are some of
but
the things you love about
you know,
this one?
I like shenanigan free training games too. So whatever. Well, I think maybe where we should start is the Saskatchewan, right? Because we've been naturally segueing to this with the talking about adding in the additional train,
Hmm.
perhaps or maybe not. And we kind of already touched about a briefcase. And Mark, tell me what you think. But I think Chris and I have seen people start the SC late in a faraway corner in the Northwest Rebellion area and try to briefcase it.
Yeah.
Because in our group we haven't been building a lot of track up there. I think after this conversation with you, the next time we play 1882, this kid right here is going to try building some track up there, and so I have an idea what the Canadian northern there actually, um,
Yeah.
but and it's generally a good briefcase in our plays for a period of time. But given that the map is small and you can do like 2 yellows and stuff, and maybe our group is just evil, but like, hey, if you briefcase that, somehow we're gonna gift you some track, and eventually make you um, buy a train. What's been your briefcasing experience in 1882?
So definitely, generally, I think the briefcasing is short-lived, like you said, because of the number of track people can lay. But sometimes you get these weird situations because of the missing uh, curb tracks, or the missing straight track in the uh, tiles, that you can't get to that city anymore. So it depends on how the map's developed. Certainly, I've seen some long run suitcases, but generally they're short lived.
Okay. Okay. Right on. Right on.
Yeah, and the
Um,
I would just bring back that the fact that you can lay two tiles a game. This is kind of a short board. There's really no super isolated spot, right? Like unless you've track isolated a token hole, like maybe this is what the what is it? I got to get the name right. So it's the Verdun. I think that's like suitcase territory right there. We called that the Denny's of
Oh,
of 1882. You don't intend to go there. You kind of wind up there, right? But you
right.
can
Yeah.
totally like that's what those spots are for because you can throw a token in that corner, start the SC because it can start wherever it wants, and
Yeah.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that.
We saw I think it was Nick one time start the SC up in the far northwest city,
Hmm.
just outside of that red offboard, and lay track this way and start laying track to not give him a route, but to use up the tiles to try to insulate himself from being connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was cool, which is a segue into what I said earlier, whereas I'm going to definitely have some words to say about the tile set because I kind of view the tile set as a shenanigan. We talked about there's only 4 yellow straight city number 50 tile number 57, but here's the deal: there's only 4 of them in 1832, right? In 1830, also I should say, because 1832 is a game. Um, so I mean, it's the same number as 1830, and for some reason, I don't really feel this pressure on the number 57 tile in 1830. So
I think that's because
maybe
a
it's
lot
because
of
the map
the
is smaller.
well, I think the map is smaller, but I think a lot of the starting stations tend to be in OOs,
Yes.
like in Philly and in
It-
Baltimore and things.
The map is also
Yeah.
different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so the 1882 map puts a little more pressure on the same quantity of tile, and they're in great demand, right? And so we've seen players in more than one occasion, 3 or 4, I'd say, in our 8 plays, start a company expecting to get a 57 tile to actually, start running some track and not having one available when it comes time for them to start operating and get, happily bummed out, right? And I think one of my favorite things to do is start the CP, right? If that guy gets started early, and of course the presidency is available in the initial auction, that guy's in a great position to quickly eat up 3 of those 4 tiles, and that's what I try to do. If I'm the president of the CP and it started early, I'm eating 3 of those bad boys as fast as I can. Number 1, that's
Yeah.
good runs for the CP. Number 2, so sorry if you really wanted to start, the Grand Trunk, right?
Right, but it also forces people to waste their tile lays upgrading your cities to free up a tile for them.
Once we get to green,
Yeah, once you get the green.
so
And
once we get
what
to
happens
green-
if the FC starts right off the bat? And that can happen.
Yeah, so
and then he can easily use 1 or 2 more 57s.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, that guy that thought he was safe is not anymore.
Yeah, I also think it'll be
So-
starting the SC like earlier. I think could be a lot more interesting, and it's something we've never done. So I still think
that speaks to the variability, right? There's no strip
I've
that
seen it a couple
starts.
times.
So,
absolutely. I mean, we got a decent amount of plays, but I still feel like there's still so much to play with and kick around.
the tile set in general, though, is shorter and more narrow than the tile set in 1830. So, like in 1830, you're playing 1830, and you expect to have this particular tile, and you're looking at the tile set, and you're like, oh crap, that tile's not there. And that's pretty cool. I generally like that, just the concept, because the concept in my head is like, in the real world, you can't just build railroad track anywhere you want, right? So to me, that kind of supports that little thought in my head. You can't just build track anywhere you want, guys. But because of that, that makes the tile set a MacGuffin as well, because you can strategically use tiles that other people might want. You can do like Nick did and try to build insulation into his briefcase. And Chris, when we were playing that live game on YouTube, Scott said this, but I can't remember if it was a Scott quote or somebody else quoted it, but Scott brought it to my attention. He said that 1882 is a good game for people that think 1830 has too many tiles, and I just loved that concept, right? So, and of course, this particular shenanigan, this tile set, it's going to vary by taste, right? It's going to be a benefit or a detriment to how you view games, right? So it's going to be a benefit if you like games that have limited track availability and enhances the ability to use track as a tool slash weapon. You're going to like 1882, right? But if you're frustrated by, I only have straight cities and why isn't that tile in there, you might not like 82. All right, so just be forewarned. It could, because it's forearmed.
But you know what? I would also tell you that the trays, because they are lighter, it's very easy to look through them, right? It's not like you're
Yes,
looking.
that is a benefit.
Right, you're
And
not
that was
like
one
looking.
of my design goals. Is
Yeah.
1830 has the larger track set, and it's harder for new people to remember what all the tracks do and how they upgrade and how many there are. So with this, it's it's a smaller track set. It's easier to memorize what's there and what's available. So maybe people that didn't like 1830 because it's too much to memorize there, they might like, the limited track set here because it's easier to memorize.
So I'm gonna kind of steal Tony's last shenanigan because it's one of my.
Wait. Before
What?
you steal that one, I got one more thing to talk about with the tracks.
Go ahead, talk away.
And that is, Chris, maybe you feel this too. Mark, I'm interested in what you feel, but like in that scenario I mentioned when like the CP gobbles up 3 of those tiles, right? And people are going to be wary about starting a company. It lends itself, it creates more of an opportunity for cross investment to a level of danger.
Oh, for sure.
and
Absolutely.
sometimes we see a lot of companies changing hands in many of our games as a result, right? Because like, what else am I going to buy? I guess I'll buy a second CP. Well, here you go.
Sometimes it's better just to buy nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I am not a company dumper, but the opportunity just presented itself. I looked down the priority deal and I'm like, hey, I have it. I might as well just go ahead and just rip everything I can out of this company and then hand it off to somebody else. So I don't normally do that, but I totally did it. So
Right on.
I get it.
That's all.
My shenanigan is the neutral tokens. Now you mentioned this earlier, and these are pretty cool because they're dual purpose, right? Like they're not just a neutral token that you can put in a place and it just permanently leaves a hole right through that city, which is that in and of itself is that's a pretty cool decision. And guess what? It's free to lay. So even if you have nothing to do, you have a token action. Sure, I'll just make sure I can always get through there because I want my east-west run. But then the CP will use those tokens. So it's pretty cool the fact the CN, yeah, sorry. The
CN.
But so it's kind of like you're doing a national railroad, but it's not any of the national railroads we're familiar with, right? Like it's not like, oh, put it on autopilot. But it still feels like it has the feeling of a state-run community railroad. It's a very interesting vibe I get from that. And you can't start until somebody breaks down and puts one of those. And maybe it's the person who has enough money to start it. Maybe it's not.
And priority to do so.
Right.
Yeah, priority is important when people start laying those neutral tokens.
Yeah.
So where'd
the neutral token idea come from?
Just another one of my ideas that I jot down and throw away 80% of them. I know that I think JC has a game that has something similar, but I think in 43, but I've never even looked at 43, so just another idea that I've jotted down. And
so I really dig it that we have like these two companies that have some variability to them, right? Like the SC, when it's going to start and what it's going to happen when it does, and then also to have the CP to be this way is just, I dig it. And then of course the can pack is not allowed it doesn't get one. So because you might think that, oh well, it's very natural to get the can pack because it's started in round one, and then the person can charge straight ahead and grab the CN. But nope, you're not allowed.
No, I wanted that historical war to remain there. They were always battling each other. Even
Right.
today,
the
CN versus
the
CP,
CP and the
right?
CN.
Oh yeah, they've never really gotten
Go
along.
Beavers.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. So that decision, because the CP doesn't have a neutral token. It's the only company that doesn't. So that's based on just some general Canadian railroad history.
One will never help the other.
Yeah, I try to implement as much history as I can into
Yeah.
my games and try to keep that intact without breaking it too much.
That's fantastic.
I dig it. Any shenanigans you think we didn't cover, Mark? Is there something hidden here that we don't know about, or that we've yet to discover, or something that's cropped up and surprised you in play?
Well, I just wanted to point out the track situation and how the upgrades work and how that's compares with 1830. And if you look early in my design process, I was looking for a way to force people to lay straight track because, Saskatchewan's really flat and there's that whole, all the roads are straight type thing. And my earlier designs didn't really work out well. So what I did is I removed any tracks that didn't have straights in them in the upgrades. And that's what you see here in this game. If you compare it to 1830, is there is none of those tracks that are green and brown that have straights in them, or that don't have straights in them.
Oh, so that's why the big old Y fountain is not in there. Okay.
Exactly. So if it didn't have a straight track in the upgrade, it was gone. So that was where I figured that would be more interesting than, and it did. The playtesting immediately could create roadblocks without in a confined space, in a smaller space. You could make these suitcasing, areas and whatever else.
That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
I love that decision.
Yeah,
there were so many reasons to do it that way that it worked out great.
And I love that it wasn't just plucked from the air. Like it makes total sense. Now, whenever I play this game, I'll never look for those tiles ever again. Or like the loop. We always love that. The tight, the tight and gentle. All right.
If you look at the history of the design of this, it's gone through a lot of changes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we like the final product. I mean, it's rare that we'll sit there, play a game, and say we need to do this again like right away. Like we were on it within 4 days. We played it Monday, then we played it again on Thursday, and played it again. And
that's awesome.
We played a 4 or 5 player game recently, right? And it was one player's first time playing 1882. And in that 4 or 5 player game, I can't remember which it was. This person got hammered and came in like 8th. And after the game says, "I want to play again."
It might have been the person I dumped that company on.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah, 5 and 6 player is definitely a completely different game than 3 or 4 at night.
This
highly
is your
recommend
phone booth.
doing it.
This map is your phone booth when you're playing with 5 or 6.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was a good sign, right? This guy got his head handed to him and said, "Oh, when can we play this again?" Right? So
yeah,
absolutely.
He witnessed all the crazy shenanigans going on, right? Mainly as a victim of them, but I appreciated what was going on. So
awesome. So I think that's going to bring us to one of my favorite segments, and this is when we talk about priority deal. We give our feelings, let us know. So Tony, I always like to start this out with, what do you have for a start player marker for this glorious Canadian-based beast that we love?
Well, a Canadian-based friend of mine, Andrew Brown, on a visit to Denver, brought me the perfect priority deal marker for a Canadian game.
A live beaver?
That is a live beaver that is now taxidermied because I don't know how to care for a live beaver. No,
excellent.
But he brought me a maple leaf shaped bottle of maple syrup with little Canadian banner on it and everything.
I like the little scarf it's got. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we use when we play
clear.
Canadian games. Oh, you consumed yours.
No, it's still got, you can still see bubbles, but it's just a vodka, I believe.
Oh no, this is syrup, baby.
Yeah, I there's a reason why this is not consumed, and that would be.
Mine is not very Canadian, but it's Lego.
I like it.
How
Nice.
can you say no to that?
You know what? Funny you mentioned that because I can't tell you how many times I'll end up looking online for like Lego locomotives just to see if I can find one. Because I think it would be a fun little build. But yeah,
Hard
there
to
are
find.
people who collect those, and they're crazy.
Oh,
Oh
for
wow.
sure.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's expensive stuff, but I dig it. So Tony, do you want to lead off with feelings, or do you want me to, or
Go for it, buddy.
go for it? Um, you know, what I love about this one is, just I enjoy a lot of the decisions you have to make because I feel like there's never a perfect decision for everybody. I feel it's a game of compromise, whether it's in stock buying, whether it's in tile placement, whether it's in route running. I always feel like I kind of have to give something this turn to hope to get something next turn, whether it's in a tile lay, freeing something up, or if you don't open anything, you kind of have to sit there and wait, which in my experience now, twice in a row has not been successful. But, I kind of feel like I like this anticipatory feelings you get from it. I kind of feel like I'm always kind of reaching either for better play, better track placement, better tile use. It always leaves me wanting a little bit more perfection out of myself. And I dig that. That's one of the main things I love about these games.
Nice. Nice. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, the child side of me loves some of these city names, right? Like Pile of Bones, Regina, Flin Flon, Moose Jaw. It's like, I'm 12. What can I say? Flin Flon. Ha. So I
It
dig
does
all
come
that.
up.
It does come up. Obviously I'm a fan of 1830, and so I'm a fan of games in the 1830 family. Chris Lawson, David Heck, John Borer, Helen Marc Voyer. A lot of people make games in the 1830 family, and I think that's because, like we mentioned earlier, right? This is a simple and deep rule set, and that you can add on neat MacGuffins, neat variables, like you've done in 82, and create this. Basically, what I feel is like a short, tough, variable, interactive, fun game, and I enjoy the hell out of this game, and I think you've done really good work here, Mark, and I thank you for it.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks
Do,
for having me on the show.
do you
Awesome.
have any final thoughts on 82, Mark? Do you like this? This is getting released into the wild at large. It's coming along. The pre-orders up. It's moving along. Do you have any final thoughts on it?
Um, I just yeah, it's blown my mind how many people, the 18xx community is just amazing, amazing people. Tony and you, Chris, so many people that are so supportive and help out with the design and everything else of the game, and so many playtesters that have helped out. I Yeah, I just thank everyone that's been involved in the whole thing, and it's awesome to see you guys playing this online, and awesome to see everyone playing at home too. And yeah, the reception's been incredible and way over my expectations, and getting that conversations with Scott going, and now that AAG's putting it out there, yeah, it's getting to the masses, and I'm super happy. It's amazing
Awesome.
feeling. It's definitely my first game. Um, More on the way, but yeah, it's
It's going to be a
wonderful.
hard act to follow. Just saying. Like
Yeah,
this,
for
this
sure.
is a great freshman
Yeah,
debut.
yeah, that's
Pressure's
probably
on,
what's
buddy.
holding me back is going, it's gonna be tough to match up.
You'll just
Yeah.
just don't do the Costanza. I'm out. Don't do that.
Yeah. No,
No,
no.
yeah, I'm definitely a lifelong 18xxer, and I'll be doing it for many years to come and designing more games. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you for designing this one. Thanks for coming on the show too. Like this was, I love when we can get somebody on and really kind of pick the brain. And my God, we learned a lot about the design of this guy, and that's just amazing. Like I love that. Like I'll never look for a non-straight included upgrade ever again and not think of you. Like it's just gonna happen now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'd hate this
that's what I
tile.
thought in 82.
like the tile going into Chicago last night on 46, he'd hate that tile. It's like it's the anti-tile because it's
that tile's not in this game.
No, Dooney track there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, thank you so much for making time in your evening to come on board and talk with us about it. I mean, it's awesome, and I mean, people playing it. That's why it's selling, because it's a great one to have on the shelf, and you can pull it out in a school night, and you can rock it out, which is that. I love the big ones. Don't get me wrong, but you know, if I can get more in, that's great too.
Agreed. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Awesome. So be sure to check it out. All Aboard's got it on pre-order. Hopefully they still have it on pre-order when this drops. And, you know, check that out. Let them know. Go play it on Board 18. You know, try it before you buy it, man. You'll find, I think you'll find you'll love it just as much as us. And if you're too lazy to play it yourself, you can watch Tony and I fumble our way through a game with Nick and Josh, and when we had a good time playing that one. Actually did pretty well in that one. So that was a good time as well. So be sure to check all that stuff out. So any parting words for the wannabe conductors out there, Tony?
Mark, Chris, and everybody out there, just be well, be safe.
Absolutely. Be well, be safe.
Definitely,
True
everyone
words.
be safe.
Yeah, exactly. And go have fun Googling 5-pin, because I know I will. So without further ado, have a good night. We'll see you next time on Wheel Tapping.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.